Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me is Mike. I kick off a new video series for us every week, or we'll try every week. Might end up being every 2 weeks. We're going to try to do just a top 10 list for us on a comic book kind of basis. Might be best movies, best artists, best things, just to give our opinions. Mike and I will sometimes, I think, have varyingly different lists. However, for the first one we're going to kick off, we're going to do the top 10 MCU films. So we're talking what's in the MCU. No offense to the Maguire or Garfield Spider-Mans, the great Fox stuff, anything like that. We're just going to go MCU official films that have come out. And so we wanted to go 1 through 10 on the 10 best MCU films. And surprisingly, me and Mike had, I think me and you had 11 films of listed. I had
Right.
you had one different. We were able to kind of negotiate and actually get the list to merge
Yeah.
up completely on this.
We used the old adage, if it was Sunday and you had nothing to do, and
Yep.
those two movies were
It's
available to watch.
and both were on TV. Which one would you keep on
Right.
this?
Yeah.
Um, so we'll kind of go 10 to 1, sort of build our way up. Number 10 for us. We put Age of Ultron, Avengers Age of Ultron. It's the second Avengers movie. I know this got a ton of criticism when it came out. I
Yeah.
think in retrospect, when you watch this movie now, one, Ultron's a really great villain. And I think the other thing is, this is probably the only movie where the Avengers actually function as the Avengers the entire time. In that Civil War, Infinity, Endgame, there's so much breaking up of the team and they're not working together. This is really the best film. That opening sequence where they are just ripping through the enemy base of Baron von Strucker. You see
Yeah.
all of them working together.
Yeah.
So much fun. I think the introduction of Vision was fantastic. Quicksilver was great. Sadly, his only appearance in the MCU. Overall, Mike, I mean, I just thought this was such a fun film. When you think of Age of Ultron, what mostly strikes you on that one?
I'll never forget the scene of the whole city being lifted up,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it was very exciting. Great special effects and action scenes in it, and of course, watching Ultron gain his sentience, and
Throughout the
and
film, that
and,
slow
and
build.
taking over Jarvis. No, don't take over Jarvis. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, I think this is one that gets overly harshly critiqued. I think just because when it came out, we had so many hit after hit after hit. And you'll kind of see in this list, a lot of the movies before this were all movies that took place before this. But overall, I think this one ages better than most of the films. The only reason this would be lower on the list at 10, the forced Black Widow Hulk relationship was awful. And I will always detest that they put that in. But overall, man, the action in this one really holds up. I'd say some folks critique this a lot. I think if you go back and watch this one, time has been very kind to this movie, and I think it pairs a
Absolutely.
lot better. So we'd have
Absolutely.
that at 10. Number 9, we had Black Panther, the first one with Chadwick Boseman. Sadly, tragically has passed, but Black Panther we had at 9. I think this movie, it had so much hype when it came out, and culturally, look, there's a significance to this film that you and I can't really speak to. But what I will say is, this movie, I loved the through line of T'Challa's, the world they built around Wakanda, the amount of time that they ingrained you
It
into that
was so cool to see
was so
Wakanda
cool.
on the big screen,
Yeah.
wasn't it? It was so cool to see Wakanda on the big screen.
Well, and I think the cool thing about this movie is you and I, as comic book fans, one of the things that's really cool when you see is a character like Black Panther, to us as comic book fans, has been a great character for decades, like a character we've known about. To finally see that character in his world realized and get the recognition for how cool a character he is at this scale was fantastic. To me, the biggest thing that carries the movie, the overall performance from Boseman throughout, just carrying the movie. The only reason I would have it a little lower, I think there were too many characters introduced throughout, and I think some of it took away from T'Challa a bit. But Boseman's overall performance, the physicality of the action scenes, that great scene between him and Killmonger where they're fighting for the throne, and kind of
Yeah.
sadly the end fight scene between Black Panther and Killmonger in the suits looked worse. But some of those combat scenes, like in the water in that pool where they're picking who's going to be the king and all that, were just great. And I thought overall this was such a good blend of humor with some really interesting action scenes throughout. This was a really strong entry in the MCU.
Absolutely.
So we'd have that at number 9. Number 8, probably a controversial one, and I know this one divides people quite a bit. You and I are very high on this film, though, and I think mainly the reason people take shots at this one, Spider-Man Homecoming, which we would have at 8, is a lot of people didn't love the integration of Tony Stark into Peter Parker's world. I think that's the main complaint people have with it.
It was a
What
little heavy-handed.
and I can agree, look, as a Spider-Man fan who, look, compared to any other character in the MCU, I like Spider-Man significantly more. He's my, probably second favorite Marvel character behind Wolverine. I think the interesting thing with this is this movie had such a unique task because it had to put Spider-Man in a world that was so well established already. Unlike the comic books, when he comes in 62, yeah, there's the Fantastic Four and some other ones, but he was one of the real founding ones. He's entering a movie in like a movie universe in like movie 14 or 15. And so they had to find a way to integrate him. I think they did a good enough job of integrating the two and that sort of high school element that we finally got with Peter Parker, with a Peter Parker who actually looked like he was in high school. No
Right.
offense to Garfield or Maguire, but those look like 30-year-olds playing high schoolers, kind of like those
Right.
last seasons of Smallville where you're like,
Yeah.
Clark Kent is not 18. And I
No.
think this movie did such a good job of touching on a lot of those things. The standout for me in this movie, though, is the Vulture. I thought Michael Keaton, that presence that he brought to the role, the conflict that's there, it made Spider-Man feel like the ground level, street level character in the MCU, which
Yeah.
was so cool because that had never been, that's what makes him great in the comics.
Yeah. It's almost like if you took out the Tony Stark element, it felt like a real Spider-Man comic
Yeah,
with the
no,
Vulture.
Holland, I think the other thing is so much pressure on him to play the role because, regardless of the quality of the films of the Garfield movies, Garfield was a great Peter Parker. Maguire is Spider-Man for so many folks. I think the fact that he came into this different world, played a younger Peter Parker, captured all of the elements of the character that you really love. And I think even, focusing so much on his romantic dynamics in high school and things like that, I think it just really nailed it. And it had such a different task than the other Spider-Man movies because not only are you competing with the past, but you have to put it into the MCU. I thought they nailed a lot of the elements of it. I think this one really holds up well. So,
Absolutely.
number 7. This was probably the bigger point of contention with you and me. We both had this one, and these are when these really got stuck, kind of picking between. So I think any of the movies that we have from 7 through like maybe 3 could have been in any order. But 7 for you and I, we did the Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton Hulk film. I might have had it a little higher. You probably had it a little lower. To me, I love this one because I love the Hulk. I think he's such a great character, and I just think this nailed everything about the Hulk perfectly. I thought it was just such a great, and I think it speaks more to the quality of the movies we have above this than anything negative on this film. When you remember the Incredible Hulk, Mike, what really stood out to you on this one when you watched it?
Ed Norton, when she tells him to come to Manhattan, he's like,
Yeah,
"Man, that's not such a good idea." Yeah, I love his performance in that. I think he really nailed Bruce Banner in a way that he hadn't really been portrayed before. I think Ed Norton brought something to Bruce Banner, and that's what made it for me.
I think where this movie only stands out is I think this was the perfect encapsulation of the character, and I think it was the old school approach to making superhero films, where despite the fact that the MCU was going to turn into this 20 something, epic saga, they didn't know that when they made this movie. And so
No,
this really felt like if you're a Hulk fan who's ever liked anything about Hulk, we're going to give you something you appreciate in this.
yeah,
From, I think, so many cool little homages to the Bixby and Ferrigno TV show. Kind of mix the
mhm.
theme in at times. Really do the tragic drifter sort of thing. You get the visceral combat with him and the Abomination. I always love that scene where he like breaks the cop car in half and starts using it as like boxing gloves
I
to hit the
know.
Abomination. It was
Yeah,
so cool to see the Hulk finally just unleashed at a
yeah.
really great level. And the 2003 film, you and I love that one, the Eric Bana one, but the CGI you could tell just wasn't where it needed to be to give you an extended Hulk action scene. This was,
Uh,
man, the first time I remember watching it's like, oh my gosh, they've got this down where they can really hit this well.
that'll be our next one. Marvel movies outside the MCU. Let's
Yeah,
rank them. Let's
No,
rank
for
them.
sure, for sure. But no, great thing, great casting. I mean, this one really, really hit on so many levels. But we'd have that at 7. Number 6, probably a movie that ranks higher, but I will be honest, nostalgia is nostalgia for a reason, and it hits you in the feels. And so we had Spider-Man No Way Home at number 6. I completely get the critics of this who will say it's just nostalgia of the movie. I get it. I will say that I don't really care. The fact that we got all
Yeah, yeah.
Spider-Mans on screen,
Together.
it was amazing. I just this movie, I will always remember watching it and just having the biggest smile plastered on my face the
I
entire
know.
time it was going.
And seeing the audience at the movie theater, these true blue Spider-Man fans, along with your run-of-the-mill audience, they
Mhm.
just ate that up every scene and clapped and cheered. It was a great movie.
I think the thing that this movie did best is, despite the fact that, yes, it's got a lot of cameos and the Sony stuff, they really did create a great story for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and they kept him front and center. And I think it was the first time his Spider-Man really felt like Peter Parker from the comics. I always credit Homecoming because I think it's still a great movie, despite Peter feeling very different. With this one, they really hammered home the responsibility piece, and you saw this character who had kind of had an easier path as Spider-Man to this point really sort of have to make the tough decisions that Spider-Man does. I think the other thing is, weirdly, Zendaya's MJ ended up being the best love interest of any of the Peter Parkers had. This movie really solidified her as, like, man, that is a loyal, loyal person that you'd want in your corner. I thought they did a great
Absolutely.
job writing the films. And I think it had so much going against it because of the three, I would probably say I prefer Holland the least out of the Spider-Mans. At the end of the film, you're so connected to his Peter Parker in a way
Yeah,
you might not have been before. It's a great movie for that. All right, we
I
get to
gotta
the
watch
top
that one
5.
again. It's been a
Yeah.
while since I put that
No,
one on.
it's great. It's really great.
Yeah,
We get to the top 5, and not surprisingly, these are all early MCU films, but I do think the reason these are the top 5 isn't just nostalgia carrying it. I think this was a different time in superhero movie making. And I think this is when the MCU really was buzzing quite a bit. So 5 for us, we had Captain America, the Winter Soldier. I think you could argue this is number 1, and if someone said so, I wouldn't argue with them too much. But I do think this movie, there's a reason the Russos were handed the MCU reins after this film. And it's
yeah.
because, man, this was such an incredible end-to-end action film
It
over and
was.
throughout.
It had Mission Impossible kind of vibes, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the action scenes were just impeccably done, and and it kind of incorporated what was going to be the rest of the story,
No, you
and
get so
and
much in this.
after that movie, they kind of, after that movie, it kind of veered in the direction it was ultimately going to go.
No, and I think, not only do you get the great Cap and Bucky, fighting and relationship and the character moments on that, you get the introduction of one of mine and your favorite characters, Falcon. So well realized on screen, so well played. I thought the dynamics they set up with Black Widow and Captain America were amazing. And just end to end, this was an entertaining movie. Even with it, you forget that awesome chase scene with Nick Fury where they're attacking his car.
Oh,
Like,
that was incredible.
characters like that just get great moments. This was back, I thought, when the MCU was really humming as far as honoring the comic books. There's enough of the Winter Soldier comic book that you'd recognize it while perfectly incorporating the MCU world. It's a great movie. It's one of the best comic films of all time. All right, number 4. Um, we have the first Avengers movie as number 4, and I will say I don't think from a plot standpoint that this movie is better than Winter Soldier. I don't think it's better than any of the movies from a plot standpoint that we've listed so far. But the reason I would have it for, I will always remember sitting in the theater in 2012 watching this, and it was the first time I'd ever been in a movie. I'm like, this is the comic books. This is the comic
I
books
know, I
brought
know,
to life.
I
Um,
know.
that scene with the Avengers battle at the end and how long that fight is and how much action you get. It was this. I was like, oh my gosh, I never thought we'd be here. Like, this is incredible to be there. Mike, what stands out most to you when you remember this film?
That scene, and especially the when they're handing out the assignments, and then they turn to the Hulk and they go, "Hulk, you smash."
Yeah. No, it was crazy in this, in that, look, clearly Tony Stark gets the majority of the awesome moments in this movie. But it was one of the first times. I always contrast this to the first X-Men movie. And the reason I do that is I love the first X-Men film, but you could tell they were kind of embarrassed. It was a comic book. The way they did the
Yeah.
costumes, the way they did the powers, they didn't really want to lean into stuff. This was, no, we're putting Cap in the spangly outfit from the comics. We're
Yeah.
leaning into and everybody got really cool moments throughout the film. Hawkeye's probably the least, honored character in this movie, but even he still got some great moments.
It was cool to see Hawkeye on screen, it really
No, it
was.
was it was so great to see them all
Yeah.
visually there and get these moments that looked like panels from the comic book. It
Yeah.
was so, and there were so many funny moments in the movie. Just I will always rank so high because as a comic book fan, I think this was the moment you realize, like, oh man, we're in a different era now. They can
Yeah.
actually bring the books. All
Yeah.
right, so top three. We kicked these around. I think three would have been higher for you, lower for me, but we kind of debated it and kind of solved it. So number three, I'll let you mainly talk about this one because it's your favorite Marvel character. The first Thor, we had it number three, the first film. Mike, what stood out to you on that one? Why did you have that one ranked as high as you did?
You know, I think the way they depicted Asgard and just seeing Thor come to life on the big screen and the way he comes down to Earth and his relationship with Jane Foster, everything it he and Jane Foster in the comics, got to be something,
Mhm.
whereas in the MCU it really didn't. So that was always strange for me that they really didn't move forward as heavily with that relationship.
Mhm.
But for me, it was just a treat. The special effects were great. The actor Hemsworth was amazing playing Thor, and yeah, I just loved it.
No, it's a great movie, and again, this was, I think, a different era of Marvel filmmaking in that while the CGI and stuff like that has its moments, then it's not great. You could tell with Kenneth Branagh directing it, that Shakespearean kind of influence that he brought to the Norse mythology and the world of Asgard. I thought the costumes were fantastic in the movie. And again, the dynamic with Thor and Loki, obviously there's a reason why that carried through so many films. It all starts here. And I just think there were so many great scenes in it. It was truly a character piece that made you care about Thor. And that hadn't really been done before. I do wish there'd been more Donald Blake, but I get it. I understand why they went with what they did, and so
Yeah, and I think that for Thor, it was like I said, it was a treat to see him on the screen, and you just didn't know how being a Thor fan, it was great seeing other people discover Thor and get to know the character.
all right. So top two. Um, we debated on these two. We bounced back and forth. You and I did a set of videos talking about MCU a long time ago. We ended up in a different place somewhat, but we'll kind of just go through. Number two, we have Captain America: The First Avenger. I'll say just brief and sweet and simple on it. It's an amazing origin story movie for a character that I think could have been the most challenging to bring to the comics, or from the comics to real world, and they just nailed it. I mean, everything from the performance of Chris Evans to the casting all the way throughout of Peggy Carter with Haley Atwell. They just got everything right in this movie. It's so much fun. It's just a great movie.
Oh yeah, I mean it totally. It was one of the building blocks for what would become the Avengers, and they just brought it. I mean, the nostalgia was there, and what's not to like in Captain America? He's Captain America, man.
No,
You know,
the only Cap versus Red Skull fight that we got in the MCU, but I think it lived up to its expectations. Great period piece film, great action sequence. It was fantastic. Number one, we ended up in the same place we did like a year or two ago when we looked through these, but I don't know that it will ever change. The first Iron Man movie ranks as number one for you and I. Um,
so good,
it's
right? Even
I,
the Mark 1 suit, the world building from that cave on was just incredible, and it took a little while to build.
mhm.
It was over a 2 hour movie,
Yeah,
but the time that they spent building it, every scene was maximized and brought something to the story. It was just flooded with all the energy that and the foundational block for the whole MCU. And they just nailed it on the first film. It's mind blowing that how they did it.
No, the Iron Man suit never looked better than it did in this movie. And this was, again, I think, when they had that golden age of figuring out how to use practical effects and CGI. The standout of this is Downey Jr. And the entire
Oh
background
yeah,
of the MCU was Tony Stark, and it was this movie. There's some movies you watch, and within a few minutes, you're like, oh my gosh, this actor is perfect for this role. And Downey, within about 2 minutes of that movie, you're sold. You're like, this is one of the most likable, charismatic, characters you could see. It's the gold standard. I don't know that it will ever fall from the top spot. It's dang near a perfect film, and it did everything. Everything from the MCU was born in this movie. But
yeah.
yeah, so we'd have Iron Man at number one. Let us know though. What would you guys have on the list? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree? Do you think we missed anything? As always, folks, part of the fun for us is just seeing what your guys' thoughts are. We'll never pretend to be the experts, just giving our opinions here. So let us know what you think down below. Thank
Put
you.
your top 10 down below in the comments.
Absolutely. As always, folks, thanks for watching. God bless you. We'll catch you in our next video.
Thanks, everybody.